As promised in my top 5 things to consider when upgrading your board game video, which is quite a mouthful to say, we'll be looking at inserts, and I'll link the video above and in the description below. What's there to talk about? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's do a deep dive of what makes a good insert, when to upgrade yours, and how to do some DIY ones on a budget. Welcome back to Tabletop Goodness. Over the course of the last years, I've seen so many of our games not hit the table because it either took ages to set up or the box was a literal mess. Some of the games that we play are rather complex or need some way of organizing them, and sadly, this seems to be an area that is quite often overlooked by game publishers. Overlooked to the extent that there are companies out there whose main business in the meantime is producing better inserts. Now, before we dive into some examples, let's see what makes a great insert for me. First, it's clear to see where which game piece goes. It does not fall apart after using the game a few times. It reduces setup time, especially for complex games. It fits easily and snugly into the board game box, including a flush lid if you store or display things you don't want any raised lids. Things don't slide around in the box and are kept in place. And well, as a bonus one, it can ideally accommodate a small expansion. Okay, now with that out of the way, let's check out some examples and discuss. I'll go from bad to good this time. While there are some games that I own that are certainly also on the bad side of things, I believe games like that take the cake. This game is called Dog Tower, and as you can see, it's literally just components in a box. It sports everything you should stay away from, including cheap plastic bags, which we might have added at some point to contain the chaos. Can't say for sure whether these are original. And rubber bands, the death to all cards. Please don't use them. I'll show you something better towards the end. Nothing stays in place. There's no way to organize anything. It's a hot mess. Even if I would find the game overly fun, which I don't, it's more of a sentimental keepsake, I would not be super inclined to get that to the table. Okay, be gone, Dog Tower. Let's check out an already better example. Spirit Island. As you can see, some thought has been put into trays and how one would organize all the necessary tokens and markers. If you dig a bit deeper, my biggest complaint is that the card trays are not deep enough to hold all the cards of one type properly. Thus, you would need to divide them up, thus making things messy again. Come to think of it, maybe I'm just extremely OCD, but hey, it does make me uneasy if my dear cards don't have the order they deserve. And just before we get to the better inserts, in order for me to improve this channel further, I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe. Thanks already for being part of Tabletop Goodness. Next up is a game called Arcadia Quest. Now, I will not show you the original insert because it was a hot mess and it had been disposed of a while ago, but I will show you an upgraded insert. This is a wooden insert that a company called Go7 Gaming did back then when the Kickstarter for this game was running. I think they did a really nice job making sure to think about easily accessible trays, being able to store the minis properly, especially if I would have time to finally get them painted, and everything is laid out in a way that makes sense and can easily be reconstructed. Previously, most of that was in plastic trays and insert, and it always took forever to find out which character goes where. Now it's easy breezy. So what's the downside? Well, it does cost quite a bit, potentially almost as much as the original game, and it's heavy. If you have more boxes like that, you need to make sure that you have a sturdy shelf, otherwise your collection will end up on the floor. Also, you do have to assemble it yourself, so it's expensive and time-consuming. Plus, there is actually zero flexibility. If there is a change in components, maybe you get a promo somewhere or a special item or something, you will have a hard time fitting things into this insert. Okay, so I promised you that we will look at the DIY version, and here we go. This is Terraforming Mars, and what I believe to remember at least 2, possibly 3 expansions in one box. We constructed this insert with a material called foam core or mount board. This does come in sheets of various sizes, and yes, you will have to be a bit crafty to get that done, but it's really quite easy. A regular cutter will cut it like butter, and apart from that, you'll just need a tape measure, crafting glue, and maybe some pins to keep things in place while the glue dries. The upside? You can basically build whatever fits your needs. It's ultra lightweight and durable. Plus, should you need to adjust things down the line, you can do so by replacing some of its parts. Board Game Geek, for example, also houses a lot of designs for various games already, so you can use that for letting yourself be inspired. But the easiest way that I found in doing that is just scribbling out some measurements and basically getting down to work. As you can see, we do have trays here. Storage for enough cards, the maps are held in place, and it literally takes a few seconds to get this all to the table, as we just leave everything in the trays and take whatever we need from them. The second and last tip regarding cards is grouping them together. We did these custom sleeves to bundle all relevant cards together. Super easy to find and store away again. This is just some foiled inkjet printed paper that we did like a while ago, nothing fancy, and it will outlast any rubber band. Your cards will thank you for that. Well, I hope that you had a fun time looking at all of those different examples. I certainly did. And the question, I guess, that remains at the end of the day is, how are you storing your most precious games, though? Do you have any tips for me? Anything where you think it could better the experience? Please let me know in the comments below. And as always, see you again next time on Tabletop Goodness.